On this episode of Country Boy Gas Garage, we're going to continue the revival on this square body Chevy 4x4. So let's go. Welcome to another episode of Country Boy Gas Garage. I'm Jason, and this is our 86 Chevy K30 4x4 that we've been doing a revival on. A couple episodes ago, we got it to run and drive for the first time in maybe 6 or 7 years. And recently, we did a wash and cleanup on it and got it looking good. Now, we got to get underneath there and address a few of the issues that we'd found, like the brakes and the electrical. So let's get set up. I'll climb under there and start taking a closer look at these brakes and see what we're going to deal with. I know the front brakes had no fluid, and the back brakes are dragging, so let's go take a look. So yeah, we got it running and driving, but it definitely had some brake issues. The brakes were completely locked up when I first started it. We got them freed up, but the back brakes are grabbing and really dragging on it a lot, and the front brakes had no fluid at all, and we found remnants inside the cab of a master cylinder and a hydro booster replacement, but that front master cylinder reservoir was dry. And there's some issues with the brake lines I'm already seeing up front here. This first rubber brake line looks like it's electrical tape. That somebody's tried to doctor this up, and well, obviously that's not going to work. So that's probably our issue with the brake fluid up front. So I guess the first step is to replace that brake line and any others that we see that are leaking, and then we'll go ahead and try to bleed those front brakes. Let's pop the hood and take a look at that master cylinder. Okay, so yeah, it's looking pretty rusty, but I believe that's a new replacement, and then this truck has sat here for 6 years. This front reservoir was dry, and now I added some to it, but that still didn't bring the brakes back. I'm sure they need to be bled. And the back reservoir, that fluid looks horrible. So we're going to have to flush this whole system, replace that front brake line and any others that we see that are damaged. These look all right up here, but I'll trace them all around and check those, and we'll try to bleed the system. And if we can't get that to work, then we'll dig in deeper, guys. All right, now we're underneath the truck here up front on the passenger side. I already looked at the driver's side and it looked okay. But over here on the passenger side, I can tell that this bleeder valve is completely stripped. So we're going to have to try to put some penetrating fluid on this and get it soaking and get that out of there. There's some in the cab that I found when we were cleaning it out that might be the replacement, but they seemed kind of large. But we'll look through and see what we got. But hopefully we can get that bleeder valve to come out, even though it's all stripped. But you know what? That's not even the craziest part, guys. I was looking at the suspension under here, and look at these leaf springs. They're reverse bowed. I believe they're supposed to be bowed this direction, and they're kind of reverse bowed, and the spring pack itself is completely opened, and the springs are starting to separate. This truck either got way overloaded or possibly somebody jumped it. But same on the other side, not as bad over there, but those springs are reverse bowed and they're starting to separate. I don't see any other evidence or any other damage of anything under here, but those front springs. You know, that spring pack is missing halfway. Half of it's missing. Binds those together, and the springs are separating and reverse bowed. I'm not sure if, like I was saying, either got overloaded or somebody jumped this thing and it came down hard. I don't see any damage or scraping of anything else, but maybe they're just wore out. But those probably need to be addressed. Yeah, here's the driver's side, and you look down those springs, that's That doesn't seem right. I did pick up a replacement for that brake line though, so we'll go ahead and pull that old one off and put this one on, and then replace that bleeder valve and see if we can't bleed these brakes. Alright guys, doing a little more investigating on these brakes, and you know, well, this thing is equipped with some trailer brakes, which look like it's leaking some brake fluid, so that could be part of the leak. And I also followed some of these wires through the firewall, through this hole in the firewall here, and you know, there's no grommet on the hole there. I'll kind of show you. They're coming through right here. Well, this red one is coming from the battery lead to the trailer brake module, and that has no plastic on it. It's just bare wire touching right there. And then the other wire is this blue one, which goes to the taillights, I believe, and it is completely bare of any insulation, and it's just bare wire on metal right there. So those two wires are being grounded out right there on the firewall. It probably has a lot to do with the electrical issue with the brake lights. So, you know, for now I may disconnect that trailer brake module and go without the trailer brakes, just to bypass that, to get it all working right. Or we could try to repair those, but I think that has a big issue with it. So I'll keep digging in this thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and keep looking and see what other issues we can find. Okay, after a little more inspection, I was thinking this front one was the front brakes, but now I'm thinking it's actually the rear. Well, first of all, this is the T where the trailer brake comes in to the brake line, and then this one's a bigger diameter brake line, and this is a smaller diameter, and they both go down to a proportioning valve metering block like thing, and the smaller of the two lines splits off into the front brakes, and the larger of the brake lines go all the way to the back. So I might have those reversed, but regardless, those front bleeder valves are stripped. And after looking at these rear bleeder valves, I can understand why they didn't get them bled, because they make these bleeder valves so hard to get to. Now I've already got in here and sprayed some penetrating fluid on them so they can start soaking, but the bleeder valves are back up in here. I can't even see. Let me get a light. So back up in here, at the top up there, you could see the bleeder valve. I already put some penetrating fluid on it, hoping to get them to break free a little easier, but man, that is a pain in the butt to get to, because this is only like a little 1-inch gap to get up in there to that bleeder valve. And same on the other side. Try to get up in there and get on that bleeder valve. Yeah, there. Bleeder valve up in there. I got it soaked with the penetrating fluid. I'll get some more on it and hopefully get the best wrench I can to get up in that little gap. But man, they don't make that easy. Alright, I got my camera set up with a light there, and it's kind of zoomed in. I mean, this gap is only about 1 inch space or so, and then this 5/16 wrench, you know, they're only so long, can only fit in here, and it's about a 4-inch reach to get all the way back to that bleeder valve. So you could barely even get to that bleeder valve with the tips of your fingers with that little wrench. And then that wrench fits on there kind of loose. I'm not sure if it's metric or not, but that thing feels loose. I don't know. That's just going to strip it out if I try to wrench on that. Alright guys, I think I got it. I used this little teeny 5/16 mini socket, and I was able to snake it up in here barely and get it up on that bleeder valve. It's not the easiest, but with the fingertips I could just reach it up there and get it on that bleeder valve. And then yeah, and with this little socket on there, I could break it free. There it goes. Alright, so we got this bleeder valve freed up and working. Oh, yep, there comes the brake fluid. Let me get this tightened back up. And it's going to be tricky to loosen and tighten these back and forth as we bleed the air out, but it's got to be done. All right, got that one tightened up. Now I work my way around and get all these bleeder valves freed up and functioning, and then we'll attempt to bleed these brakes. Back up under here, the front passenger side brake, and this is that stripped out bleeder valve. And I've been using some vice grips trying to get it free, and it is not coming free. It's frozen and all rusted in there and stripped. So at this point, I'm going to apply some heat, the torch right here, and try to expand this metal a little bit and try to get that bleeder valve to come free. I might have a replacement for it. I hope so anyway. So, well, let's do that. Alright guys, it's not giving up. It is on there, man. That thing is rusted and stripped. I've been heating it up out here and trying, and it's still not working. I've gone through maybe 3 or 4 heat cycles, and it's just not giving free. So I'm going to try a different method of actually heating this valve up itself as hot as I can get it, and then quenching it with water and quickly cooling it. And doing it that way also may work. So let me try that. Well guys, I'm afraid that thing's not coming out. It's starting to break up, and it's going to break off of there. I think I have to pull this whole caliper off and get it in a bench vise and try it that way. Maybe get out the big torch and really get it red hot. It's just not giving up. I noticed these spider eggs are hatching right here. A bunch of baby spiders. Yike. There they are. Alright. I'm going to have to get this up on jack stands and get this wheel off and try to get that caliper off, get it in a bench vise, and keep working on that bleeder valve. Hey. Alright guys, before I pull it all apart, I'm going to try one more time using the big torches. We'll be able to get that bleeder valve red hot, and well, if that doesn't work, then we'll pull it all apart. Also, down here on the caliper on the bleeder valve, I jammed a nail into it to make this more solid. Hopefully it doesn't break off. And also I went through all my vice grips trying to get the best pair. And I was able to take these and kind of modify the end to get the best bite. So between those vice grips and that nail being in there and it soaking overnight with some penetrating fluid, and then getting that thing red hot and then quenching it with water, you know, hopefully we'll get this bleeder valve out. Guys, I think we're gonna have to pull it apart. Get the jack stand out and get the jack, and we'll get this thing up, get the wheel off, get that caliper off, and we may have to take it into a machine shop and have that drilled and tapped if I can't get it myself, or we'll just buy a replacement. Alright, here we go. Let's get this thing jacked up so we could get that wheel off, and then we could access that brake caliper. Well, the wheel's fused to the drum right now, so we have to break that free. And this is what I have to deal with. Oh, she came free though. Now we could access that brake caliper and get that off. Alright, with this style of calipers, get it off, we gotta get this bolt out of here. I believe they call these wedge style calipers, but we get this bolt out of here. And then I guess at that point we'll be able to knock this wedge out of here and flip these up. Hopefully that brake line comes off, and we'll pull this caliper off. Alright guys, now I got that caliper off, and after looking at it, I'm thinking this thing was no good anyway. That rubber boot and seal to that piston there is just gone. I bet you this caliper was no good anyway, so it needs to be replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and price out a new one of these, and get a new brake line possibly as well, and we'll get this replaced. Then we can start bleeding the system and hopefully get this thing back on the road. Alright, check it out. We got the new brake caliper. So I'm going to install this with the new brake lines, and I'll bring you guys back in. Alright guys, we're back. Now it's been a few days and these brakes have been fighting me the whole time. Now I did get that new caliper on, but things haven't been going that easy. Let me get in here and show you. Alright guys, yeah, it's been a few days and it's been pouring. But I got out here in the rain and was able to get some of this work done. I didn't film any of it because, well, it was just too hard to do that in the rain and get this stuff done. But I got the new caliper on there, already starting to rust. And then when I went to replace this new rubber brake line over here, which I did, it didn't come disconnected from the hard line very easy, and I ended up breaking the hard line there. So I had to redo the hard line from the distribution block up to this rubber line. So now we got new line all the way to the caliper, which I learned this caliper was also replaced when they did the master cylinder and hydro boost replacement, for the same reasons. They couldn't get the bleeder valve off, so they had to replace the whole caliper, which is what I did on this side. Replaced that whole caliper because the bleeder valve would not come free. But in turn we figured out that the piston was bad in that and it needed to be replaced anyway, and possibly this is the brake that was dragging and hanging up. So after I got those new parts on there, I attempted to bleed the brakes and was not successful at that. So I determined that there was too much air in the master cylinder, so I re-bench bled the master cylinder right here in the truck. I made these lines to hook into itself and bled the air out of the master cylinder, which in turn to do that I had to disconnect this line, which had a T going to the trailer brakes, and that union would not come disconnected, and we had to break that line and run a new one. So now we got a new brake line running from here down to the distribution block, and the master cylinder now been bench bled again. So at this point we just need to try to bleed the brakes again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up and try to bleed these brakes. Alright guys, we're getting there. Now the process I'm using is taking one of these little cheap handheld vacuum bleeder pumps. You know, you put it on the bleeder valve, pump it up, build a vacuum, and then open the bleeder valve and pull the brake fluid through the system. So I'm kind of starting it with that, and then after I get a bit of fluid in there and got the lines primed, then I'll go back and do this other method. Here, let me show you. Yeah, once I get the handheld vacuum bleeder going and I get a little bit of a prime in the line and start pulling some fluid through, then I go back and put a line on the bleeder valve and run it into a jug of nearly full brake fluid and loosen that bleeder valve. Make sure your master cylinder is full at all times and pump that pedal. As you pump the pedal, it'll push brake fluid through, and then as the pedal comes back up, it'll suck brake fluid back in. And you do that a few times until all the air gets out of the line. And I've done the other 3, and now I'm just down to this last one here, so let me work on that. Guys, right when I thought I was home free and we're about done, the brakes keep fighting me. I found a break in the line about halfway through. Let me show you. As I was finishing up bleeding the brakes, the rear brakes still just didn't act right as I was bleeding them. And, well, I figured it out. There's a break in the line, probably rusted out. But, yeah, it's still dripping. Yeah, right up here. Right inside there where the rear brake lines run through the frame rail, it's all caked with dirt and it's all rusted up, and we've burst a brake line in there and it's dripping out. So that's probably contributed to the problem as well, trying to get these bled properly and everything else. So, well, now I've got to dig that out and try to figure out where the brake is exactly, and either get a couple couplers and replace just that section, or try to replace the whole brake line. Not something I was planning on doing. So let me kind of dig this out and get it cleaned up and try to find out what's exactly going on in there, and well, we'll make a game plan. Well, it's been a few days and the weather's been horrible. It's been raining like crazy, and tonight we have a warning of wind gusts up to 40 miles an hour, which usually always brings trees down. I mean, we had 2 trees come down yesterday just from the saturated soil from the rains, so we're more than likely we're going to lose power tonight as well. But, you know, I do have a backup generator, and we have a cook stove and hot water heater that runs off propane, and wood stove for heat, so we're set. But even with all the rain, I was able to get under here and fix those brakes. We left off with that brake line leaking. We had another blowout under there, but I was able to get under there, pull off the heat shields, get that old brake line out of there, and I did have a section of that copper nickel brake line left over from when we did the brakes on the bus, and I had just enough to replace that brake line. And so I was able to do that and then bleed the brakes again, and I believe they're working now, guys. I think we have brakes. So we're going to need to take it for a test drive though. But let me show you the brake line that I pulled out of there. This is that brake line that I pulled off. You know, it wasn't too bad anywhere except for right where it was in that frame rail, and it rusted through. And so I was able to replace that one. So yeah, with that brake line replaced and the brakes bled, I think we're ready for a test drive. So I'm going to go grab the GoPro and set it up, and we'll go for a drive. All right, well, let's see how well she'll start back up. It's been a couple weeks here. She's a little cold-blooded. I don't think the choke's working. Come on, girl. See if the wipers work. No. I haven't even checked the fuse panel yet. I did get the headlights to work though, just by disconnecting those grounded out wires that were going to the trailer module. Now the headlights seem to work. Wipers aren't though. I'll have to check that fuse panel. Replace some fuses. The tach doesn't work. Radio? No. We have fan, but the heater controls are frozen. Can't turn it from cold to hot. Okay, let's go for a test drive and see how these brakes are doing. Yeah, they work good. They work good, and we got a full load. Now I feel like the back brakes are still dragging, but we got good brakes. Get up here and turn around. Yeah, we're gonna have to adjust the brakes in the rear. I bet you they just need some adjusting. But we're out of time for this video. But we're gonna have to do that on the next video. But hey, we got brakes, guys. Well, the brakes are working good. The pedal feels good, nice pressure there, but I could tell the brakes in the back are dragging, so they need some adjusting. And one of the vacuum lines going to the EGR valve had rusted off, so I need to replace the EGR valve in that vacuum line, get it run a little smoother, and we need to replace those front springs. I mean, it's driving on it now, but I'd hate to go across town with a load with those springs on there, so we're gonna have to find out what we can do about that. I've been pricing new springs on that, and they're not that expensive, but shipping is outrageous. So I'm also gonna go check out Springfield Auto Recycling one more time before they close. They had a K30 out there, and I think it had front springs still hanging on it, so maybe we just pull those off and replace these ones. But we'll get a little bit more work done on this truck. But that's it for this video, guys. So make sure you hit that notification bell, you're subscribed to the channel, you like, comment, and share with your friends. Until next time, peace.